He gets to go and do and stuff, but I do see some of the names that I recognize from, when we have to send emails out for, a variety of things. If you've done any of the RAD conversions, that's my baby, right? So you may have gotten emails from me in that arena. And then certainly now with procurement, you will see stuff flying around from Vicky, coming to you from me on the properties as well. So what we're going to do today is, and I was hoping to kind of piggyback, Kelvin Noble after he spoke, but really we are at a point where we have had to really streamline what we were doing as it relates to procurement on our properties. There is, number one, our job, Vicky's job, is to primarily make sure that you guys get what you need at the properties as quickly as possible. Because we know when there's something's broken and needs to be fixed, our goal is to want to do it as quickly as possible, right? So we can get back to business, keep the property running, keep everything efficiently in place. However, there are some guidelines because on most of the properties, you have HUD-sponsored programs, HUD-funded programs at your properties. Because of that, we have to slow down a little bit because HUD, as you know, anytime you accept anything from HUD, it comes with a ton of requirements, right? And when they send you money, they're going to send you guidelines on what you have to do because you get that money. And it's usually oversight of whatever the process is. So with procurement, before we can just make, and this is what we're talking about beyond your ordinary maintenance, right? Your major capital items, roof repairs, things like that. We have to provide, or we have to follow a system of guidelines from HUD on how we go about making those repairs. Our procurement department, which Kelvin Noble, is the director of, they oversee that process for Fort Worth Housing Solutions. And then, of course, you know that under Fort Worth Housing Solutions, we have all of these different entities, right? Many of you have different LPs that are the actual owner at your property that you manage. Well, each of those owners are responsible for making sure that their property is managed following the guidelines that HUD has put in place as it pertains to procurement. Kelvin Noble is the person that manages that process. He oversees that process to make sure that we stay in alignment. It gets really difficult when, and this is what we were at one point, where the agency was doing, we were procuring items for the properties, right? And the properties were not aware that we were doing this stuff. We're doing it out of our offices here. You have no idea this is coming. You had no idea this was going to hit your budget. It got crazy for the property management company. And it was crazy for us because the property is also doing stuff, fixing things, doing things, spending a lot of money. We weren't aware. And so we were all kind of ways out of sync with our procurement department, because they said, there are certain procedures that have to be in place per HUD, and we just were not following them. So about a year or so ago, we revamped the process, and our desire is to make sure that everyone is communicating. So if it starts from you guys at the property level, you notice something needs to be done, you notice that it's above and beyond, ordinary maintenance, you're going to start a process, or our guys, because, in that ownership role, we have to constantly go out and observe on the property. They should not be interfering with you and your management of the property, but they will come out and observe. And if our guys notice anything, they come back and they let Vicky know, hey, notice this on the property. Are you guys aware of it? And then we start a process on this end. But now, instead of us just going off and doing things, we will bring it back to you and say, hey, property, management company, we noticed this at the site. Are you guys aware of this? You may be aware of it and already be, proceeding to take care of it, but you may not. If not, then we'll go ahead and start the process. Okay. So that's what we're trying to do is make sure that all players are communicating with one another. So property management company is aware, housing authority is aware, the ownership is aware, our guys that do work on our properties, our security team, Vicky, everybody's on the same page when it comes to making the repairs at the property that are necessary and spending the money. And also our procurement department gives us the check off and said, yay, you're okay. You're in compliance, and we carry on and we're good, and we don't have to worry about, OIG or anybody else coming and saying anything to us regarding how we're spending money at the site. We know that if there is a problem and we get cited, they're not going to come, you guys are going to have a burden, right, that you're going to have to bear for not following the process. But ultimately, it's going to be the owner of that property that's going to get dinged by HUD or whoever else, comes to check on us. So we want to make sure that everybody is covered. That includes the agency, our ownership entities, and our property management teams as well. Okay. So that's what this whole process is about. And as we go, and I'll say this before we start, like I said, we recently put this in place. It seems to be moving very, very smoothly. We got a couple of property management companies that are already, working and operating in it. And it's moving very, very efficiently and effectively. Every now and then we'll have a little kink and we may tweak some things, but if we do, we will certainly let everyone know. And that way we again are all on the same page. Okay. Yes. And Leslie, we have had to address that. And again, I'm going to ask that you guys, have a little bit of patience, with Doug and Tony. Doug and Tony are primarily the people that will come to your property. She made a comment that they've come out and they're on site and they're unexpected and they come in and they disrupt, Again, we have changed the way we're doing things. So at one point, that was their job. They went to the property and they directed the repairs at the property, at the site. Well, we have tweaked that, right? It's changed. And so they are now no longer the primary, or I'll say the sole, they're no longer the sole source of identifying things that need to be done on the property level. They should not, and we have already communicated this to them, they should not come in and disrupt your day with your property. If they are on site, surely they can let you know that they're on site, because I think you guys should be aware of whoever is on site, at the any given day. They can come and report to you. They're going to be on site, but they are just checking it out. They're going around and they're looking at foundations. They're looking at, balconies. They're just observing. They should not cause much disruption on an observation day.
Absolutely. Yes, I kind of switched spaces, so I didn't really want to start my video. Oh, this thing is still here. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get rid of this background because it's getting on my nerves. Okay, that's better. Okay, because I had these puffy eyes from Cedar Mountain, whatever's out there. All that we ask from Doug, from you as managers and management agents, is that you receive them. They are there to represent ownership. They're not there to give directives. They may say, hey, I noticed this, and they're not giving you a directive. They're only making sure that something may be an emergency or something that needs to be handled fairly quickly. Just please receive them. However, if it begins to disrupt your day, please let me know, so that we can handle that. We just don't want them coming in and coming out, disrupting what you have going on in your office. So I would like a list of what they see. Yeah, we will provide.
That's coming.
You. So that's a part of this training. Thank you, Mayor.
Perfect. So as you can see, we've all kind of had the same issues, and hopefully the training is, after you see what we're going to share with you today, hopefully it will address your concerns. It will address some of the issues, but sometimes we know that it's hard. You know, when you've done a thing for a very long time, right? It's kind of difficult to turn that corner. So again, if you have a problem, if you notice an issue and it's not turning the corner, right? Then let Vicky know, because we will deal with it, because we must get on board with this process, right? Everyone, because it's going to be the thing that's going to keep us in compliance and out of trouble. And we don't want anybody knocking at our door. We don't want ugly emails being sent to us. We definitely don't want, you know, funds recaptured, none of that stuff, right? So we need to make sure that everyone involved is getting on board, you know, and if you need some assistance, we will gladly offer you that assistance, you know, whatever it takes, but we have to turn that corner. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to share my screen. We practiced this earlier, so prayerfully all will, it will work. All right, I'm gonna go through the form that triggers the process now. This form will start everything whenever there's, you know, again, anything that's beyond ordinary maintenance, we will use this form to begin the process. And I believe all of you should have received this packet in your email with these forms, and we're just going over the form. I'm not going to, at this point, talk to you about how it's going to work. I'm just going to explain the pieces of the form. But everyone at your management company will need a copy of this form. Mo, I've showed you where this form is as well on our drive. So if you are out and you see something related to security that we need to procure, you'll start this form as well. It's the same process, whether it starts at Forward Housing, or it starts with Doug, or it starts with the property. Everybody starts with this form, okay? So you'll put the property name at the top, you know, whatever building is, you know, we're working on. So just the location, so everybody knows exactly what property and what we're talking about.
I'm not seeing the form, man.
You're not seeing it?
No,
Okay.
I see your screen. I don't see where you pulled up the form.
Okay, is everybody else seeing it? Nobody's seeing the form? Okay, let me go back. I don't know why it's in it says I'm sharing. Let me stop. I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna go back. Try it again. Let me share first. Are you able to see that?
Yes, we see your menu.
Okay, very good. It's loading. You see it now?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Very good. All right. So again, you'll put the property name and information here on this first line, and the building location. Be, you know, specific so everybody is on the same page with what property we're talking about. If it is whatever the construction coordinator, this is generally, you know, Doug or Tony, but it can be whoever is at the property that's taking care of the construction or taking care of making this request. Okay, you will let us know the priority of your request. Is this something that needs to be done like right now, right? You've got something major going on, it needs to be taken care of immediately. Then you'll put a 1 on this blank right here by priority. If it's just something that's important, we need to get to it as soon as we can, put a 2. This helps Vicky out, right? Because she goes through when she gets all these requests and she puts them on a master list. And then she prioritizes the information based on what you put on this box right here, okay? If it's something, yeah, we need to do it, but it's not like just pressing, nobody's gonna be hurt or, you know, anything like that, then you put a 3, okay? When Vicky gets it, she knows how to prioritize it amongst the many, many other requests that we have, right? So she will go on there based on what you put on the priority box, or Doug, or, you know, Tony, when they send this form in, whoever sends it. If you have an ICE, you know, on this project, you kind of have an idea what the estimated cost is, put that there as well. And then let us know if this is construction, right? Or if
What
it's,
is an ICE, ma'am?
I'm sorry, the independent cost estimate. Yes. So just if you've gone and you've checked it out and you said, okay, I went to Home Depot, I looked this up, or I got a vendor that told us, this, we know what we need to do, and they estimated to cost this much. It's just an estimate of what it's going to cost to do whatever the work is that you need to have done. Okay. You're going to put that on this line. And then just let us know if it's considered construction or if it's non-construction. And then Vicky, this form, well, let me go on down. So you'll describe the work here. So it's kind of like a mini scope, right? You don't have to go into detail here. I don't need your whole 30-page scope, right? Just kind of let us know the work that needs to be done. So if Mo was doing something with security cameras, he would say, I need, 14 security cameras for this property, including blah, 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 right? And just detail, it should fit in this box, okay? So we don't need the whole scope here, just an idea of what it is that you're getting ready to do. Or you could say, fixing the roof at such and such a property, or replacing the roof, or whatever the work is. Just give us a description of what it is that you're actually doing here. Once we get the form, if you see on down on the left side, this is where you will say you sent this to Vicki Roberts. So anything coming from the property is going to come to Vicki Roberts. So right here, you can timestamp this. And there's a process in your Adobe that can allow you to do a timestamp, or if you just need to print it off and sign it, right? You can print it off, sign it, and then just scan it back in, whichever way. And there's we've got a detailed explanation on how to do a timestamp if you're interested in doing that. Cheryl Carson, our Brian's secretary here, she pulled up some instructions on how to do that. So you can put a cute little stamp right there that says you started this form, and it'll date it for you. If not, you can, like I said, just sign and date it and be done. And then you will sign down here as well or put your stamp here that you sent this to Vicki Roberts. Okay, she's our asset manager. And you can sign when you get it. This is just a way for us to track where it is, right? So whoever started it will put their name here, and then you will put down here also sent to asset manager whenever you send the form, okay? And this will then be emailed to Vicki with your stamp or with your signature on the form. It's just a way to communicate it from the property over to Vicki. If Doug and Tony started, they will put their information here, and they will put it here, right? Sent to Vicki, and they'll have their information there. If you get it from Vicki property, Vicki will send a copy. If she gets a form and something's getting ready to go on the property, she will send the form, and it'll come and it'll say from Vicki Roberts, right? And you'll sign here that you received it, okay? And then send it back to Vicki, so she knows you've been informed by the form, okay? So this is just a place for communication. Once Vicki gets the form, she will put information up here. This is where she does all of her tracking in this box up here to the upper right. So this side on the right is just for forward housing use. Any work that goes over $10,000, we will send through our procurement department, usually. Sometimes Vicki will get approval for the property to be able to still procure those things. Right now it's set at $10,000, okay? Once we continue working through this process and we've got things just flying and we're getting things done at the properties, I'm just letting you know that we are going to request that this $10,000 be increased so that we will have a little bit more room for you guys at the property level to secure more items, right? Way above that $10,000 mark. So we're hoping to go to the state level here, but that's something that we got to deal with internally. And then once we get that set, we'll communicate it to you and you'll be able to do more. So Vicki will identify whatever the funding source is that was going to be used for the procurement, if it has to go to procurement. And then she will send this information over to Cheryl Carson, who's the secretary for the DAM department, Development Asset Management. And then she will go through all these things here to just track the procurement through the process. She has to get a packet done. We get accounting codes and funding sources. And when it's all done, they send it to me. I check everything to make sure we've got all the components in, and then we send it over to procurement to start the process, okay? And this is how we track that to make sure everything's accounted for, okay? Once we get this form goes into our files. Vicky, if the thing is coming back, let's say that it's under, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail in a minute. But if it's not $10,000, if it's under that level, then the property has an opportunity to secure this thing, okay? And it doesn't have to go through our procurement department. So if it is under that amount and we go through and we decide, oh, you know, property can do this, then Vicky will sign down here for now. It may change soon. Our legal department is working on whether or not the entity is going to give Vicky the approval to continue to approve that, or somebody in the entity will approve it. But somebody will approve it, right? And it will be here. There'll be a signature and a date, and it'll say approved. And this form will come back to the property, and she'll send it back to you and say, you know, property, go ahead and secure this request, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'll talk to you in a minute what that means for you all. But this form is our communication form regarding procurement of any size. If it's over $3,000, or if it's construction and over $2,000, okay? So everyone must have this form, okay? In your agency. For housing, you'll know where the form is in our, it's on the DAM drive in our procurement folder. That's where you can find it. But this starts the process on whatever level. Okay, so I'm going to close this one, and we want to make sure that everybody has this form. If you do not have this form, make sure you let Vicky know, and she can email this over to you, because everyone at every property needs to have the form. All righty. Any questions on that form before I go on to the next thing? Okay, so this is the process. What I'm going to talk to you next is just about how we do everything, on what level, and when you know what to do. And hopefully it will be clear. All right, everyone can see that? You good? All right. So this is our procurement process that we have constructed. Forward housing, again, we have construction coordinators. That's what we call Doug and Tony's job, right? Or you all at the property level that are in charge of communicating your construction needs, your procurement needs. You will submit the procurement request form to the asset manager, who happens to be Vicki Roberts, and it will detail the improvements that you have identified at the site. Vicki will forward the form to the regional manager at the property, okay? The regional manager will be in charge of disseminating this back to the staff at the respective properties. Okay, please make sure that you get that to them, and that way we make sure that everyone again knows, from the person at the front, office, all the way up. Everyone should know this work is being done, right, for this particular property. So the management company will procure the work via this process. I've broken it down into non-construction requests and construction requests. And the reason that we did that is because HUD requires different things for construction than they do for non-construction requests, okay? So that's the way, I guess, you can kind of keep it in your mind when you're making a request. Is it construction? Is it not construction? That's the first thing you need to do. We even have our files set up that way for all the procurements now. So let's start with the non-construction requests. So if it is non-construction and the total cost for this thing is estimated to be under $3,000, based on what we have currently in file in most of the property management agreements, and per the documentation that we had from our HUD training, we can get 3 quotes done on the requested work, and we can be fine to carry on. Now, there are some things that have to be in place. First thing, you can't go and start the work and then go back it up with quotes. right? Go to Home Depot, print stuff out and say this. No, before you start any work, you got to get 3 comparable quotes. That means every bid or every proposal that you get is based on the same scope of work. So your scope of work needs to be written, right? We're going to have a form very soon that has I'm envisioning it being columns. So on the left side will be what you need in detail, itemized, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what we need. And then to the right will be blanks for the bidder to put, this is what we'll charge you for this, right? So they can itemize each item by cost and then have a total cost at the bottom. That way we know that we're asking people to bid apples to apples, right? So when I go to vendor number 1, he's bidding on the same thing as vendor number 2 and number 3, okay? You all will need to make sure that you keep all the scopes, the copy of what you had them bid on. You need to keep any dated emails, because if you contact that vendor via email, we need to have a copy of that email, right? Because we need to make sure that you communicated to vendor 1 the same way you communicated to vendor 2 and vendor 3. This, ladies and gentlemen, is all HUD regulation, okay? So, because we have to keep it, Kelvin's favorite quote, if you ever hear from him, is open, fair, and transparent, okay? So everything's got to be the same with every vendor or we get dinged, okay? So we're going to keep copies of the emails we send out. We're going to make sure that everybody's talking about the same scope. Make sure that everything has a date on it. Date the emails, date the scope information, right, that you send out. Everything's dated so that they know, because we had a problem with this once. We had people go and get like maybe 2 bids, and then after a whole bunch of time had passed, they threw in a 3rd one, right? Nope. They need to be all secured by the same time, right? Send out the information the same day to all 3 so that everything's open, fair, and transparent. You at the property level, because if it's under 3,000 per your agreement, you can secure these things, right? Per our process, you can secure these things. So it's going to be your responsibility to make sure that you are keeping a record, documentation of all these things. What we do is we have it in a file folder, right? By property. We have all the properties that we have. And in that folder, there's a procurement folder. Then we break it down between construction and non-construction per property. Each property file will have those 2 folders. And then if it's a non-construction request, we open up non-construction and we just list all the things that are non-construction that we have got going on at that property, okay? You can do something similar, but it's going to be your responsibility to keep a copy of those scopes, the dated emails, and the dated quotes per work performance, right? Per whatever requests you have for each property. Be sure to get insurance certificates from the selected vendors and keep those on file as well, because we have to have insurance certificates from each vendor on file, okay? That is for work that is under $3,000 that you are doing at the property level. You don't have to send anything to Vicki on those things. Those are just work that you all can do at the property level, okay? We don't have to have any of that stuff go to Vicki. Okay, you're working on that. You're getting your 3 quotes. You're keeping your emails and that, and you're getting it done. Make sure you have a procurement request form in your files, right? That's documented all that information, and you can have everything in there in that one file, and you can get that work secured under $3,000 if it's non-construction. If it goes over $3,000, we go to the next section. This is for anything that's between 3,000 or it's over, the 3,000. So 3,000 to 10,000. You're going to submit the scope, all of your dated emails, along with this, the procurement request form. Remember, that starts everything. So that that's got to be done. Then you'll do the scope, the dated emails, and the 3 dated quotes that you've collected, right? And you're going to send them to Vicki Roberts. You can shoot it to her in an email. Vicky, here's the request. We've got here are the emails and the scopes, and these are the 3 people that we had bid on this thing, and we need you to review it and approve it. Per most of the management agreements that we have on file right now and our process, Vicky has to approve anything that's above $3,000 before you procure it and start work on the property. Doesn't mean that we're going to do it, that we're going to have to procure it. It just means she needs to give a sign of approval, right? She's going to get everything that you send. She's going to review it. Just make sure, again, it's apples to apples. Everything's dated. We've got, the 3 quotes. And based, I believe, on the requirement, it'll come back usually whoever has the lowest bid, right? Was the one that's chosen or whatever. So Vicky will select whoever that person is and say, okay, this is the vendor that we should be using. You are approved to use said vendor to do said work. She will email back that procurement request form with her signature under approved, and she will send it back to the property, and you can go ahead and do the work. Get it done. Okay?
Can I interject?
Yes.
One of the things I was used to hearing or seeing is, well, we wanted this vendor, well, we didn't plan on using this vendor. We just wanted them to bid. Please don't do that. If you do not intend on using the vendor that you sent that scope to, do not send the scope. Don't get a bid from somebody that you didn't plan on using. I just thought I'd put that in there. I've seen it across the board. Well, we just need a bid. We just need a number. No, we don't just need a number. We need people who are going to bid the work, are capable of doing the work, and we will take the lowest bidder at that point. Don't just send it out to somebody just to get a number. I just wanted to interject that. Thank you, ma'am.
Very good. Because if you guys do, we get somebody, and we have seen things like this, we want to make sure that whoever you're selecting is capable of doing good quality work. Because what we don't want is shoddy work. And I will tell you this, Brian Dennison, and if he's still on the call, he can attest to this. He doesn't like shoddy work at all, okay? Get people that are qualified to do a good job, that know their business, that you have vetted. You know them to, look at their ratings, see, what people have gotten from them. If they've got a lot of negative comments, that could be a sign. Don't fool with them, right? So you guys know in your professional, judgment, who's good, who's not, and just make sure that whoever you submit, you are willing to work with to repair the property, because, per the HUD guidelines, they have to select by those guidelines. So make sure that there are people that you're willing to work with and that we know can get the work done appropriately. Vicky will, when she gives that approval for you all to go ahead and secure these, she will keep that approval in files at the Fort Worth Housing Office, okay? So anything that she's approved, she's gonna have record of it. So be very careful about going out and doing, fixing the pool, and it was over $3,000 and you didn't get Vicky's approval, and come back and say, oh, well, Vicky approved it. No, if you don't have all these forms in a file from Vicky with her signature, it's not approved, okay? Only when you get those things back from Vicky and you got that procurement request form signed and approved by her, that's when you have the approval. No verbal anything from anybody, okay? It must be written, because this is another procurement statement. It's not what did he say? It's not what you say, it's what you can prove, or something like that, right? So we got everything written so that we can prove that it happened. Otherwise, it didn't happen, okay? So if it goes over $10,000, submit the request form to Vicky, and we will submit that to procurement. Okay, it has to. If it's over 10, now I will say this: we got Kelvin to agree that if it's just barely over 10,000, like it's 10,400, Vicky will then get your form, talk to Kelvin about this particular procurement, and if it's feasible and if it's the best course of action, Kelvin may allow the property to go ahead and procure it because it's just barely over 10, right? The issue comes with when it gets to be a big dollar amount, procurement has many, many avenues that we can pursue that will give us an opportunity to get the request done at a cheaper rate. Like they have, for example, co-ops, they call them, that where another housing authority in another state could have procured something similar, or in this state could have procured something very similar or the same as what we're doing. And our procurement department can piggyback kind of on that procurement, and it doesn't take as much time. It's very cost effective, right? They get a different a rate that was already approved and agreed to, and we can get it done faster, right? So they look at things like that to give, and they give that feedback to Vicky to say, no, let's go ahead and send this through procurement because we think we can get a better deal and we can get it done faster. Or they'll say, Vicky, yeah, go ahead and have the property, do this and just get the bids and, do it that way and you give the approval. So they will let her know at that point which way she can go. If it's well over 10,000, just know we're going to send that through procurement. Okay. And then that process will take over. Vicky will add then this procurement request form to our master list of procurements. And based on what you put on that first little section on priority, she will prioritize it into the list of everything that we have going on. And we will get to that procurement based on how she prioritizes it. And we prioritize them by quarter. So we do that throughout the whole year. And so it'll fall in that range somewhere. And then we work the list from the top down, okay, every week. And that's how that will go. So any questions on the non-construction requests? Pretty simple.
Ma'am, it's me again.
Yes. Go ahead.
I did want to say something right here where you are. And I believe it will help the properties. From the master list, I will begin to send you, regional managers, your section of what we have on the master list that is either in procurement, that we're still waiting on, and maybe this can help everybody kind of stay on track. Because I get a lot of, hey, where we at on that? Where we at on that? This way you will know. So every so often, I'll send you an update of our master list for your property. And if there's anything that you need to add or anything that we can take away, maybe it's just not correct, then we can all monitor somewhat that master list.
Very good. And because procurement is seeing it, they're being able to say, okay, these are the things that the properties think of. As Vicky is pulling all kinds of information. We get all the stuff that we've got from Doug and Tony, anything that you guys are sending in. Now Mo will be in this loop. And then anything that you guys have on your, on your budgets that are big capital items to be done. Vicky adds all of that stuff onto this list and prioritizes it. And then each month we send it an updated list to procurement. So we can do all kinds of things. We can sort this list by property. We can sort this list by type of work, all kinds of things. And so we're trying to manipulate it so that we can, number one, get things done as quickly as possible, keep everyone informed, and then communicate to procurement, this is what we need. And then procurement can know how to best make that happen for us. Okay. So definitely want to make sure everybody is giving input on that list, and we can keep it due to where it's not just, managing, but it's a communication tool as well. Okay. So let's move to the construction requests. These are a little more complicated because there's a little bit more required for them. So you'll notice the first thing is construction if the costs are $2,000. So they lowered the bar, right, for the construction things that the property will be able to do. So if it's under $2,000, then that's the arena where the property pretty much takes control of the procurements, okay? So the property, again, gets the 3 comparable quotes on the work to be done, again, before starting any work. And this is one of the things, and that's why we highlighted that, because it was getting us in trouble, okay? Before you start anything, that means you got to be planning, right? Ahead of time, the things that you're going to do at the property as much as possible. Emergencies, and let me say that because I think this is an appropriate time. Procurement sees emergencies a little differently than most of us see emergencies, okay? And Vicki had to explain this to me as well. If I was to come out to a property, I'm not a property management person. It's not my thing, I say, hey, there's a leak. The roof's leaking water. Oh my God, this is an emergency. We got to go fix this, blah, 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 blah. I want to run and get it all done, right? Well, all of it may not be an emergency. Some of it may be an emergency. Whatever's causing, a threat to, life and limb and all that stuff, that's the part that procurement will consider the emergency. Fix that thing. It may be putting a tarp on the roof. Stop the leaks, stop the water. All the rest of it, we can procure. It is not gonna be tomorrow that you get that all done, right? It's gotta go through the process, okay? So just keep that in mind when it comes to emergencies, okay? We gotta, for majority of things, they're gonna follow this process, okay? If you think it's an emergency, communicate that to Vicki, and we'll see if it's determined to be that or not, and then there'll be a process that you all be able to follow to deal with the emergencies. So if it's under 2,000, you get the quotes, the dated quotes, dated emails, just like we did in the first section, right? Do the selection, keep it in your property files as documentation on what did you send to everybody? Why did you choose this vendor? Have that in your property files as documentation. This is the big part that procurement wanted us to make sure that you were aware of. If the aggregate amount, so let's say you had one vendor that you've used and you've used them over and over and over and over and over, right? At the property level, doing a variety of things. Well, if you've used them so much to where what you've spent on them has exceeded $2,000 for that vendor or for that type of work, you had, I don't know, painting done, right? And it's a major, well, the painting's kind of weird, but let's say whatever the type of work was, you spent over $2,000 for the same vendor for this type of work. That is no longer an under 2,000 procurement, right? It's now moved into a new category. So be aware of the aggregate totals that you're spending by vendor and by type of work, because if it moves up over the threshold, you got to go to the next level of procuring that item. That makes sense. So if it goes over 2,000, you need to go down to this next level. If it's over 2,000, but under 10, right? Just like we had at the top section, $2,000 to $10,000. This is the process for those if they are construction. You're going to get the 3 dated bids, the dated scopes, the dated emails. You're going to send them to Vicki. It's the same thing that you did in the non-construction ones, right? Because Vicki has to approve those things. So before you start anything, Vicki will get your procurement form, your request. She'll look at all the scopes, all the the information you've sent over, and she will say this is approved or it's not approved. If it's not approved, chances are she's going to tell you what you need to fix it, send it back, and it'll get approved, right? So she will give the approval for that particular thing, and then the property will be able to carry on. Now, I put under here a special note. The asset manager will save the approval record in the DAM property file and make sure that the property forwards additional HUD forms to the vendor selected. Anything that's over $2,000, HUD requires, number one, for all of this work, and I want to make sure I got this in here, you guys need to make sure at the property level, if you are securing a procurement, you need to make sure that you have a contract of some sort for the vendors to sign, agreeing to do the work based on the proposal that's been approved that you've sent on that scope, right? So you need to have some type of documentation where the vendor is agreeing to do said work by said date, or, whatever. Have some type of written contract. And then if it's over $2,000, only on construction related issues, there are HUD forms that must be attached to that contract and kept on file. The vendor has to have a copy, right, of this document, and then you keep them on file. And Vicky will, when she approves this, if it's over 2,000 and it's construction, when she makes the approval, she will send you those forms to attach to your contract. Okay. I've got them here and I'll show you shortly what they look like. But it's that, you all may know it. What is it? 5370 EZ is some forms just to the vendors. And it is mandatory. HUD requires them on construction projects over $2,000. This was an issue for procurement. And they wanted to actually do the procurements in this range. They want us to send it to procurement because of this form. So it's going to be up to you guys if we're going to be able to maintain this at the property level to make sure that that form or those, there's like a couple of forms, they get added. Well, actually, it's one, but I think that you'll use mostly for your procurements, but that has to be added to the contract for construction items over $2,000. Okay. And Vicky will, again, try to communicate that to you in a reminder, you know, when she approves it, to add this form to your contract. Then you'll make sure you got your bids, your scopes, your emails, and your contract with this form in your files as documentation, right? And of course, the forms go to, they will actually go to the vendor with the contract. And again, here, if your aggregate amount, if you're procuring stuff and you've done a bunch of these, and now this particular vendor, we've spent, you know, we're up to like, you know, $99,999. There we go. On this one vendor. And we're ready to give them some more work. About to be over 10,000 for the aggregate for this vendor. So we've got to move them to the next level. Okay. Or if you've just got a thing that's going to cost, you know, $15,000, $30,000. That is going to be an over $10,000 procurement. So you would follow this one by submitting the request form to Vicky, and then we will send that on through procurement as an internal procurement process, and let you know when the contract's all done, and then the work will start. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention on the construction projects. All of these construction projects, because they have an opportunity. Most of your properties have some type of HUD-assisted programs on it. We have to follow Davis-Bacon on those construction projects. So if it is construction related, again, when Vicky gives you the approval to do that work, or if you're doing the work under the 2,000, you have to make sure that if they're construction, that they are following Davis-Bacon requirements, okay? And Vicky will, you know, help you to remember that, but you guys need to also know at the property level, if you're dealing with construction and it's over that, I think, is it over 2,000, Vicky, where it triggers?
Yes.
Okay, so if it's in that 2,000 to 10,000 or above section, you have to follow Davis-Bacon.
Construction only, construction. And you may want to, speak to what construction is. Construction is not landscaping. Construction is not painting. Construction is building or an addition or changing the structure of something. That becomes construction. Your paving, your parking lot paving, those type things are considered construction. So we want to make sure, and we'll work through it, that you don't confuse non-construction items, even though that 2,000 still applies to construction.
And if you have a question about that, you're not sure, call Vicky. Just shoot an email and say, Vicky, would this be construction or is this not? She'll figure it out and let you know.
Madeline's question is construction turnkey unit turns? No. However, you must have some type of contract in place, some kind of procurement in place for those vendors that you get to do that work. Does that make sense? You can't just call anybody you want to call. And that's where the issue is. That's where the price goes up, and that's where the finances start looking a little funny, because we're just going to get anybody that we can. Yes, the work needs to be done, But we're working now on procurements within the agency that you can call us and pull one of those vendors if you need somebody at your property. So right now, no, that is not construction. Turnkey units are not construction. Just make sure that you're using every means possible to openly, fairly, and transparently obtain the people who do the work on the property. Kelvin was going to come online and talk about Section 3. That's going to be something, all of this stuff kind of plays together, and it's going to be another training. How about that? So no, Madeline, to your point, no.
And I wanted to say what Vicki was just talking about. We are in the process, like I said, we're doing a lot of things. Vicki and I talk twice a week about procurement, and for about an hour, twice a week. And we try to push out between, about 5, 5 to 8, somewhere in there, procurements per time we talk. So we're looking at like 10 a week minimum, right? And that's a lot. And when you see this master list that we have over across all of our properties, there is a lot of work to be done. So we're working very closely with our procurement department to see, again, how can we make this move as quickly as possible and offer opportunities to our properties to get work done where it's quick and it's safe and it's compliant. And one of those things is creating a pool of vendors that we kind of have for the things that we do all the time, like painting, like landscaping, like, all those things that y'all have all the time at the property, make ready, right? Stuff like that. And we'll have these people already selected, already vetted, per se through, by procurement, that we can easily access for these things that you all may have to do and maybe save you money in getting them done. There may be some things that, for example, you could very well procure in that $2,000 to $10,000 range. But when you talk to Vicki, or when Vicki gets your form, she may know, wait a minute, you know what? This is going to require them to go to Home Depot. We have a co-op with Home Depot, and we can get a lot of stuff from Home Depot cheaply, and more probably cheaper than the properties could get it on their own, going to the store. So instead of giving this to the property to do, let's send this through procurement so we can access the co-op and get it cheaper for the property. Stuff like that. So that's the stuff that Vicki will do on her end, because she knows a little bit more about what procurement has on our end, and it may save you money, and it may be we can still get it done quickly, but still save money as well. So all those things Vicki will consider in that $2,000 to $10,000 range when she receives your request. Right? So, and then she'll communicate back to you, hey, let's do this, or hey, let's handle this way. And then you guys can go down that path of the best way to procure. So again, anything over the $10,000 for now, over 10, will go through procurement. And it could be that, procurement at that point will tell us the best way to secure that item for you, whether it be through a co-op or through procurement or whatever it is that they do. Okay, so that pretty much is the procurement process that we're following. And like I said, the majority of the items that we've sent through, they're going through and they're getting done, and we're getting them, done pretty quickly. The procurement department, usually we'll hear back from, there's Janine Charles, Igioma, and then Kelvin will be the ones that will be reaching out to us. They generally will reach out to us here in the agency, and then Vicki will communicate to the property. Okay, that's the protocol. So you guys won't generally go directly to Kelvin or directly to, somebody in our procurement department. That will flow through Vicki. All of the communication from the property.
Please do not send anything to procurement. Please do, please. We're begging you. Don't send anything to procurement.
It confuses the process. We'll put it that way. And again, part of this process was put in place for communication, right? To make sure that we're all on the same page and we're all getting things done as efficiently as possible. And sometimes when we jump outside of that, it throws off that whole efficiency piece. Okay, so Anything that you're having a problem with, any questions that you have about procurement, if you have a question, is it construction, is it not, do I need to do this? Call Vicki, right? And she will, or send her an email, and she can usually answer those questions very quickly for you and make sure that we're again on track with what we're doing. The biggest thing I would say for you guys, make sure you're keeping this stuff in your records, because HUD can come and check your procurement process. And you want to be covered, showing that you are adequately procuring the items on site according to the guidelines that HUD has put in place for the properties that have HUD funds coming to them. You're following Davis-Bacon, and it's documented, not just you saying you're doing it, it is documented that you are following it. Now, Cheryl Carson is the person for those construction projects that are over $2,000. She's the person that will be able to assist the property with Davis-Bacon. Okay, Vicki will trigger her when she sees, oh, I've given an approval, is Davis-Bacon related? She will contact Cheryl and say, please contact the property about this procurement for Davis-Bacon. And then you guys will communicate with Cheryl about Davis-Bacon and whatever it is that she has to, you have to do with that process. Any questions in the chat, Vicki? Anything that we need to address? In addition,
I'm responding to Leslie. Do you have a scope form we can use?
We're getting ready to create that for you. That's what I was saying. We're gonna, we've got one that we use on another one, and I'm actually in the process right now of creating the one that I'm trying to do with the columns. And once we shoot it out, I'll give it to Vicki, and she will send it to everybody. I should have that done for you guys this week. I'm actually on vacation. Well, kind of, sort of vacation, working half day today. I'll be off the rest of the day. I was off yesterday. I'll be working, what's today? What is today? Wednesday?
Thursday.
So we're off
all day.
I know I'm off. So we'll be off to them back.